Last Tuesday, I froze in the middle of the sidewalk because stapled to a lamppost was a missing person poster with my face on it. Aged 30 years. A car crash took my memory decades ago. I rebuilt everything from nothing. A name, a job, a family. But this poster was fresh, stapled that morning, with a handwritten phone number. I called it, hands shaking, and an old woman answered, and her voice cracked. Every year on his birthday, I put up one poster. Just one. This year, my grandson picked the lamppost. It was my mother. 30 years. One poster a year. She never stopped. And that lamppost stands directly outside the cafe I've walked into every morning for a decade. She'd moved to my city last month. When her doctors told her how much time she had left, I made it in time. I killed his grandson, and he still requests me by name for every delivery. I'm a delivery driver, and one house on my route orders a single kid's meal every single day, but no child lives there. It bothered me for weeks, until one evening I saw him through the window, an old man, completely alone, at a table set for two. So I finally asked. His grandson was killed by a delivery driver who was speeding to hit his quota. The company fired the guy and changed absolutely nothing. So now the old man orders every day, and every order comes with the same note. Take your time. Arrive alive. I smiled at how kind that was, until that night, when I checked my own old route logs, and my blood ran cold. I was that driver. And here's the thing. He already knew. He requests me by name on every single order. He isn't haunting me. He's forgiving me. One slow, safe delivery at a time. My father framed every one of my failed report cards and hung them on his office wall, right where his clients could see them. Every F displayed like a trophy of my embarrassment. I grew up humiliated. I stopped visiting. I stopped calling. And then he died. And I had to clear out that office myself. I ripped the first frame off the wall, furious all over again. And something slipped out from behind the report card. A handwritten note, dated the same day. Grade, F, effort after his mother died. A+, proudest I've ever been of him. My hand started shaking. Behind every single framed failure, there was another note. Failed math, but taught his little sister fractions all winter. My father wasn't displaying my failures. He was hiding his love for me where he could stare at it, every single day. For 4 years, I've paid my dead wife's phone bill, just to call her number, and hear her say, "Hi, you've reached Sarah." Every single night, I'd listen, and hang up. I never left a message. Not once. Then one night, a robotic voice stopped my heart. The voicemail box is full, but I never left messages. So who did? I got into the inbox, and I found dozens of them, all from our daughter, away at college. "Hi, Mom. Dad doesn't know I do this too." I sat there, listening for hours, until the last message destroyed me. "Mom, tell Dad to answer my calls. He listens to a ghost every night, but he sends his living daughter to voicemail. I need my remaining parent." I called her right then. She picked up on the first ring, already crying. "Hi, Dad. Finally. I was supposed to be knocked out under anesthesia, but I heard everything. The needle went in, my body went limp, but my mind stayed wide awake. Then the nurse asked the doctor, 'So how much is his life insurance worth?' He checked the paper and answered coldly, 'Depends how he dies.' My heart monitor exploded as they all turned and stared right at me. The nurse whispered he was probably just dreaming. The doctor ordered more sedative. I fought desperately to move. Nothing. Then I heard my wife's voice. 'I think he's awake.' She sounded horrified. I forced my entire hand off the table. She gasped. 'This can't be happening. I already put a deposit on the new Ferrari.' I ripped my eyes open to see the doctor standing over me with a syringe full of venom. I couldn't speak, so I pointed straight up at the forgotten security camera on the ceiling. Bam! The door burst open. Security had been watching the live feed the whole time and dragged my wife out kicking and screaming. There was an empty chair at my wedding with a dead man's photo on it. My best friend died overseas 2 years ago. No one could ever replace him. So his photo sat in the best man's chair instead. Then, in the middle of the ceremony, a stranger in uniform walked in and sat down in it. The room gasped. Everything stopped. The soldier stood, asked to speak, and pulled a small box and a folded paper from his jacket. He'd served with my best friend, who made his entire unit memorize one promise. If I don't make it, whoever gets stateside first attends the wedding. He'll be too stubborn to pick a new best man. He was right. The box held rings my friend secretly bought the day we announced our engagement. The paper was a speech titled, "Best Man's Speech, Draft 1 of 1. Don't cry, idiot." The soldier read every word. Everyone cried, including the idiot. Our school banned every notebook and diary overnight. For safety. Teachers stormed classrooms, ripping journals out of hands, even grabbing loose paper. They said too many kids were writing cruel notes and cheating. I watched them take my secret diary, the only place I'd ever written the truth about what was happening at home. 3 days later, a quiet kid named Alex completely lost it in the hallway. Years of pain exploded. Screaming, punching lockers, spiraling out of control. Teachers couldn't reach him. That's when I remembered the blank notebook I'd hidden in my gym bag. I shoved it into his hands and said, "Read this. You're not alone." He dropped to the floor and started flipping through the pages. The screaming stopped. The tears came. When the counselor finally arrived, Alex was calm, clutching that notebook like it was saving his life. The principal tried to suspend me for breaking the ban, but Alex's parents showed up furious. News vans rolled in, and half the school started sharing stories of what they'd lost when their own diaries were destroyed. The ban was lifted the next morning. The principal was gone by Friday. And that notebook? It now sits in the counseling office, open for any kid who feels like they're about to break. Some rules aren't about safety. They're about silence. Until one hidden diary proves why voices matter. An old man walked into my pawn shop and saw his dead brother on my TV. Except, his brother wasn't dead. They'd been separated as refugee kids. Each one told the other had died 60 years ago. He dropped his cane and whispered, "That's my brother." So I helped him track down the filmmaker, and the archives confirmed it. The laughing young soldier in that clip survived the war. We followed the trail through letters and old records. And then it went cold in 1987, until the filmmaker checked who donated the footage. It was the soldier himself. He'd run a shoe shop for 40 years, 3 blocks from my store. He died last spring, with a sealed letter on his workbench. It said, "If anyone ever comes asking about my brother." 2 men searched for each other their entire lives, and missed by 11 months and 3 streets. For 30 years, my dad pulled into the driveway every night and gave 2 short honks. And for most of those years, I secretly wished he would just shut up. As a little kid, those 2 honks meant safety. As a teenager, they meant embarrassment. I'd shout from my window, "Dad, you're waking the whole neighborhood." He never stopped. He worked the late shift and always came home around 2 a.m. Those honks were his quiet way of saying, "It's me. I made it home." Then his heart started failing. He lost his license. I became the one driving him to chemo, and every ride home we'd sit in the parked car in heavy silence. One day I finally asked why he always honked twice. He looked at me with tired eyes and whispered, "So you'd know it was your dad, and not someone else coming to the door." Months later, he was in hospice, barely conscious. The nurse said he could still hear. So I walked down to the parking lot, sat in the old car, rolled down the window, and honked twice, loud and clear, straight toward his room. 2 days later, he passed. Now, every night when I pull into my own driveway, I give 2 short honks before I turn off the engine. My kid groans, "Dad, that's so annoying." I just smile and say, "One day you'll understand. Some habits aren't meant to be broken." My name is Marcus, ex-scout, Raptor Division, 3 tours in the Badlands before my knees, and my conscience both gave out. These days I take tracking jobs for money, and the money on this one was wrong from the first phone call. Nobody pays a washed-up scout a year's wages to guide a weekend hunt. Nobody flies him in blindfolded on a private lift with the windows blacked out. But the number had too many zeros to argue with, and I told myself I'd seen worse. I hadn't. Not even close. The island wasn't on any map I'd ever read, and I've read them all. It rose out of the water like something that didn't want to be found. Green going black at the tree line, cliffs on 3 sides, 1 narrow dock, and a lodge at the top that cost more than my whole hometown. Harlan Voss met me on the landing pad. Silver scales, tailored coat, a watch worth a house. His 3 friends stood behind him the way jackals stand behind the one that eats first. They called it a retreat. They said the word like it was funny. The first thing that felt wrong was the staff. Not one of them looked at me. Not the ones carrying luggage. Not the ones at the lodge doors. Not the young triceratops refilling water glasses who flinched every time Voss raised his voice. People who won't meet your eyes are people who've been taught what happens when they do. I filed it away. In my line of work, do you file everything away? Because the detail you ignore is the one that kills you. The second thing was the enclosures. Reinforced steel, buried deep, humming with power out behind the lodge. Far too much steel for a private zoo. Whatever they were keeping back there, they were keeping it in on purpose, and they'd spent a fortune to do it. The third thing was the way Voss watched me during dinner. Not like a host, like an appraiser. Like a man deciding what a thing is worth before he buys it. They took me hunting the first morning to get me comfortable. That was the phrase. Get comfortable. We went out into the interior, and inside an hour they brought down a wild T-Rex, a real one, 40 feet of muscle and fury, and they did it laughing. But when I got close to the animal, I saw the scars. Old ones, surgical ones, a line of them running clean along the base of the skull, healed over, deliberate. That was no wild animal, somebody had worked on it. And when I looked up from those scars, Voss was already looking at me, and he smiled like he'd been waiting for me to notice. That night, I found the dog tag. I wasn't snooping. Or I was, but I told myself I was looking for the generator room. Instead, I found a row of staff lockers, most of them empty, one of them not. Inside was a jacket that didn't belong to any dinosaur working that lodge, and clipped inside the collar, where you hide the thing you can't afford to lose, was a military dog tag. I turned it to the light, and my blood went to ice water. I knew the name stamped into that metal. I'd carried a man by that name out of a collapsed tunnel 11 years ago. Riley, my squad mate. The one they told us went missing on a training rotation and was never found. He'd been here, on this island, in this room. And that's when the radio in the jacket pocket crackled to life, and I heard Voss's voice, low and easy, talking to his friends, and I heard my own name. After the animals are done with him, winner keeps the pot. 2 million to whoever tags the scout. They weren't hunting dinosaurs this weekend. They were hunting me, and Riley had been the last one they hunted. Here's the thing they got wrong about me. They thought the 4-hour head start was mercy. To a man like Voss, a head start is a courtesy you extend to prey so the sport feels fair. But I didn't spend those 4 hours running. I spent them building, because the Badlands taught me one law, and it never failed. The hunter who moves is the hunter who dies, and the one who makes the ground itself to the killing walks home. I went up first. Always go up first. I climbed the tallest tree on the eastern ridge, and I read the island the way I used to read a valley before a patrol. And what I saw underneath all that green wasn't a paradise. It was a machine. The ravines were too straight. The clearings were too even. The trails funneled. Every path narrowed toward the same low ground, like water, toward a drain. Somebody had shaped this island to push things where they wanted them to go, which meant if I was clever, I could push things too. I just had to be the one who understood the drain. I started with the pits. Narrow ravine a mile east, soft ground, natural choke point. I dug deep and I lined the bottom and I covered it with fronds and dirt until it looked like every other patch of jungle floor. Then the deadfalls. Young trees bent, back like loaded springs, tripwired to the trail, waited to swing. Then the scent trails, dragged from the carcass they'd left behind that morning, laid down in long, looping lines that all led exactly one place. My ground. My drain. I worked until my arms shook and the sweat ran into my eyes, and the whole time one thought kept circling. Riley built traps too. Riley was good, and Riley didn't make it. So I couldn't just be as good as Riley. I had to be better. I had to find the thing Riley found too late. I found it an hour before dawn, and I found it by tripping over it. A metal box, half sunk under the ferns, the corner just catching my foot. I almost left it. Something told me not to. Inside wasn't supplies. It was a journal in handwriting I recognized, and a small device I didn't, and a single page torn out and left on top, where whoever came next would see it first. Riley's handwriting. Riley's message. Written to a stranger. Written to me without either of us knowing it. Whoever you are, listen. Voss isn't hunting for fun. The animals have implants. Chips at the brainstem. Riley had known they'd come looking for the man he taught, and he'd left me the one tool that could keep me breathing. I put the jammer in my pocket. My hands weren't steady. And then, far off toward the lodge, an alarm began to wail. Thin, rising, unmistakable. Someone had checked the box's location. Someone knew it had been moved. The hunt had started early. I made it back into cover just as the boots came crashing through the brush. One man, a staff guard sweeping the tree line. Sloppy, tired, looking for a scout who was supposed to be running scared. I didn't give him the chance to report. Quiet work, the kind they teach you, and then pretend they didn't. When it was done, I had his key card, a tranquilizer gun, and a problem. The guard had a radio, and a radio that stops checking in is a radio someone comes looking for. So instead of running from that, I ran toward it. Because a guard patrol means a route, and a route means a destination, and I wanted to know what on this island was worth guarding. It was a bunker, half swallowed by vines, dug into the hillside, the door disguised as rock. The keycard opened it, and what was inside turned my understanding of this place completely on its head. It wasn't a hunting lodge with a kennel, it was a laboratory. Emergency lights, rows of cold servers, cages, empty now, but sized for things that walked upright, and racks of glass vials glowing faint blue in the dark. On the screens, genetic maps, dinosaurs spliced with traits that don't occur in nature. Heightened aggression, pack obedience, response to command signals. They weren't taming wild animals, they were manufacturing obedient ones, building a product, and there was a file open on the main terminal, and the file had Riley's name on it, and one line under it that I'll carry to my grave. Test Subject 01, refused final integration, requested release, escape containment, status, recovered. Recovered. Not killed. Recovered. They'd caught him again. Whatever they'd done to my friend, they'd done it twice. But it was the other files that made my skin crawl, because they told me this island was so much bigger than one lodge, and 4 bored rich men. There were client lists, coded, initials only, but dozens of them. There were references to retreats, to private events, to arrangements for guests who require discretion. There was a folder labeled with a word that made my jaw tighten. Spectators. People weren't just coming here to hunt. People were coming here to watch. Powerful people, the kind whose names open doors and close investigations, paying enormous sums to come to a place with no laws, no cameras they didn't control, no consequences. A place built specifically. I took a USB drive with everything on it. I ran the jammer against the lab's local network and watched 3 camera feeds die. And then footsteps in the corridor sent me back out through the vines, into the green, with proof in my pocket and a target in my head. Because one of those files had a line about the central lab and a note in Riley's hand in the margin. And the note said, "It's wired to overload. Reach it. Burn it down." Dawn came up hot and wet, and with it came the first hunter. His name was Klein. Pharmaceutical money, soft hands, a rifle that cost more than the trank gun and did less. He came up the Eastern Trail exactly where I wanted him, narrating the whole way over an open channel because men like Klein can't do anything, not even murder, without an audience. He called me an asset. He said this beat any hostile takeover he'd ever run. He said I was just another line item. He stepped onto my ground, and my ground did what I built it to do. The deadfall took him off his feet, and the trail took the rest, and Klein went down hard and stayed down. But here's the twist I didn't see coming. Klein wasn't hunting alone, and he wasn't hunting blind. He had a drone. It had been above the canopy the entire time, and it wasn't just feeding video back to the lodge. When I pulled his tablet from his pack, I saw the truth of it. The feed wasn't going to 4 screens. It was going to dozens. There was a viewer count. There was a chat. Somewhere out in the world, an audience of the invisible and the untouchable was watching this hunt like a sporting event, placing side bets, and none of them had ever once worried that they might be caught. Klein, before the tranquilizer took him all the way under, laughed at me. And he said the thing that changed the whole shape of the weekend. He said, "You think you're fighting Voss? Voss is the help. The clients own this. This wasn't Voss's island. Voss just worked here too. I killed the drone before the lodge could see too much, and Voss's voice came over the radio. No longer easy, no longer amused. Clever," he said, "but you've only met the polite ones. Let's see how you do with the pack." And then he let the raptors out. I heard them before I saw them. That clicking, that chirp, the sound that turns your spine to water because it means they're talking to each other about you. But I had Riley's jammer, and I had a low setting, and I had something better than a weapon. I had their own language on Klein's comms. I broadcast a distress call, distorted, wrong, a sound that meant danger here, and I aimed it away from me, straight toward the second hunter's position, a hedge fund raptor named Hargrove, who'd come out to bag me himself. The pack turned toward the sound, and that's when I saw the collar. One of them wore a collar, blinking red, and I understood Riley's warning in my bones. These weren't wild animals gone feral. At least one was controlled, steered by a signal from the lodge, and Voss could point it wherever he liked, which meant I wasn't fighting animals. I was fighting Voss's hand on a leash, and the leash had a frequency, and frequencies can be cut. Then the ground began to shake, and the game got bigger again. A herd. Triceratops, a dozen of them, wild and heavy, and pushed into the low ground by the same funneling ravines that had funneled everything else. Hargrove got caught in the middle of it, and Hargrove, who an hour ago had been trash-talking me over the radio, suddenly wanted to make a deal. Marcus, listen. I'll split the pot. I never wanted this. Voss has gone off the rails. This was supposed to be." And he almost had me, because the fear in his voice was real. But I'd read his file in that lab, and I knew the difference between a man who regrets a thing and a man who regrets getting caught doing it. He was trying to lead the pack to me even while he begged. So I did the only thing that made sense. I hit the collar signal with the jammer, and I scrambled it, and the controlled raptor stopped being controlled. And in the confusion, the pack stopped taking orders from anyone at all. 2 hunters down, 2 to go. And the whole island was awake now and roaring. I patched myself up on the move, and I went looking for Hargrove's pack. I found a partial map, hand-drawn, marking structures the official maps didn't show, little squares labeled control. And I found a voice recorder, and when I played it, lo, it was Riley again. And this time, it wasn't a warning. It was a will. They made me splice the obedience genes. I told myself I had no choice, and that was a lie. There's always a choice, and I made the wrong one for too long. So I made a right one at the end. I sabotaged the central server. That's when the 3rd hunter arrived, and he arrived like a man who'd never once in his life been told no. Lang. Tech money. The newest and worst kind. He came in on an ATV with a swarm of personal drones. But this time, I wasn't alone. She came out of the ferns so quietly, I nearly took her down before I saw the fear in her face. The young Triceratops from the lodge, the one who'd flinched at Voss's voice, the one who wouldn't meet my eyes at dinner. Her name was Elena. She'd worked at the labs. She'd seen the same files I'd seen, and she'd seen her own name on a list she wasn't supposed to find. And she'd decided that if she was going to be hunted anyway, she'd rather be hunted running toward the boats than waiting in the lodge for her turn. She could jam drones. She wanted out. And she was willing to bet her life on a stranger. because a stranger was the only chance she had left. I took the bet. Every ally counts, and I was tired of watching this island eat people alone. She shorted 2 of Lang's drones out of the air, while I ran his own arrogance against him. A blood trail, a scent line, and a stretch of river where I'd seen something big moving under the surface earlier. Semi-aquatic, sail-backed, patient. Lang chased me straight into the shallows, so sure of his armor, so certain that money and machinery made him the apex of every environment. But it cost me. Lang got a shot off before the end, and it caught my leg. And suddenly, I was moving at half speed with 3 hunters down and the worst one left. Elena bound the wound with hands that shook, and then her collar beeped. She had an implant too. Of course she did. They'd chipped the staff the same as the animals. Insurance, a leash, a way to make sure nobody who worked those labs ever truly left. And the beep meant Voss had found her frequency, and in a moment he'd have her, steer her, use her against me, or simply switch her off. She understood it before I did. And she made a choice. The right one. The one Riley talked about. The one that's always available and almost never taken. The last I heard of her was her voice over the open channel. Steady, almost calm. Finish it, Marcus. Burn it down. Then it was just Voss and me, and the storm. And Voss, who had spent the whole night as a voice on a radio, finally had to come out into the weather and hunt me with his own 2 hands. And out here, soaked and blind and equal, he was just another rich man who'd never learned to do a hard thing himself. And I used it to pull him exactly where I needed him down the weakened trail toward the last pit, past the false ravine where I'd staged a decoy. A controlled raptor lunged out of that ravine with implant light glowing in its eyes and nearly finished me right there. And I jammed it mid-leap and turned it, and sent it charging back the way it came, toward Voss. He put it down. But putting it down cost him 3 seconds, and his footing and the last of his certainty, and it bought me the time to reach the drain. The final trap was the trail he was standing on, and he'd followed me onto it exactly the way the island had taught everything to go where it was pushed. The ground gave. He went down into the dark. He didn't go easy, and he didn't go quiet. He cursed my name, and he offered me money. More money than I'd ever see, and he told me I didn't understand what I was destroying. I stood at the edge with his own rifle in my hands, and I told him the truth. You wanted the ultimate hunt. You paid millions to be a man no rule could ever touch. I hope, right at the end here, it felt like everything you thought it would. Then I left him for the island he built, and I went to burn it down. The central lab was where Riley's map said it would be, and Riley's sabotage was where his recording promised it would be. A system primed and waiting all these years for one more pair of hands to finish the job. I put the USB somewhere safe, I set the overload, and I walked out to the sound of everything Voss and his clients had built beginning to consume itself. Every design, and every serum, and every genetic map that would have let them do this again somewhere else. Gone. But not every file was in that building. That was the last twist, and I found it on Voss's own drive as I crossed the water in a stolen boat, with the island burning orange behind me. The island was never the point. It was one location. One node. There was a network. Other islands. The clients on that spectator list didn't lose their army on that island. They lost one factory. They have others. And now they know a scout named Marcus has proof, and a map, and a reason. They gave me a 4-hour head start once, and they thought it was mercy. They shouldn't have let me live long enough to understand the game, because now I'm the one hunting. And this time, I know where the islands are.